All right, let's do a report up on the Truckee River, and I have Dave Harvey, who's the owner of Current Fly Fishing. How you doing, Dave?
Doing well, Rick. How are you?
Great. Thank you very much for doing this. Appreciate it. So let's talk about the Truckee. We've got some cool stuff going on up there. I'm hoping, let's see where we're at with the season here. Just in general, where are we at with the river and conditions?
Conditions are getting pretty good. So this time of year, we start to see that snow melt start to subside a little bit. So the flows were up fairly high. And now we're kind of starting to lose flow as we go into the month here of June. And this really is kind of the prime time to fish the Truckee is within the next month and a half, depending on temperatures and all that. Right
Dave,
now, the canyon.
Can you give me on the flows? Can you give me a little bit of specifics? So what is the optimum range in terms of CFS? And then where are we at now?
So right now we're at in the canyon, for instance, along the 80 freeway, we're looking at 800 to 850 cubic feet per second. So that's what we're running at today. And that's pretty optimal especially for floating down the river. Walk and wade, it's still a little challenging. You do want to still fish the edges and be careful getting in the river. But as we get down towards the 600 range in the canyon, that's really becomes a lot more accessible. Those fish really start to move into that holding water, pockets, riffles, pools, things like that. And if you're a walk and wade kind of guy, that's how you can get to them. Up higher in the river, kind of near the town of Truckee, you're looking at 500 to 600 cubic feet per second right now, which is nice. That's good water to walk and wade. That's good flow. It's running really clear right now, which is great. And depending on the weather we're having of the day, we've been having some really good days up higher in the river.
What about water temp? I know it was such an issue last year in terms of the drought and everything, and I know in terms of how you kind of approach things. Where are the water temps where you like to see them, and where are they at right now?
Well, we love that optimal 58 degrees, but it's it'll soon start to rise above that once we get into July and August. As it is right now, we're looking at kind of starting the morning, some of the colder days in the high 40s, low 50s, and that's pretty optimal. We like that a lot. And being that that's the case, our hatches don't really start coming off until mid-morning, which is great. Haven't really found it to be a river that you have to wake up at the crack of dawn, at least this time of year. As we get closer into July and August, that'll change. You will want to be out there pretty early just to find that optimal temperature range. But as it is right now, we're looking at pretty good temps and pretty good hatches come mid-morning, kind of into early afternoon.
So that leads to my next question about the hatches. So it sounds like hatches coming off a little bit later than, say, it would later in the summer. So a little bit later in the morning. And what's hatching and what are you looking at in terms of how you target then timing and with what and how?
Yeah, definitely. So, typically in the morning, you're going to see midges first. Then we'll start to see some mayfly activity given the day. We're coming off of like the March Browns. They're starting to taper off, and they're a pretty large mayfly pattern. You'll see them out there, kind of brown in color, obviously. But now we're starting to see more and more PMDs, which are the real light tan color, kind of smaller. You're looking at like a size 16 or 18 to match that. And that really becomes a big food source for the trout. They really get into those. And you'll still see a few betas around as well. So that's usually the order it comes in. As we get further into the day and then further into the season, we'll start to see more and more caddis flies out there as well, come midday, that sort of thing.
So the way do you kind of and this is just sort of a general rule of thumb. I know that, every day is a little different, but kind of in the mornings, then earlier your subsurface and you're using and midges and so on. And then you're, as the day progresses and you start seeing hatches come off, then you're looking at some of those dry flies you mentioned. And then does it kind of taper then off in the afternoon? You go back subsurface again?
Yeah, it's every day is different, of course, as we know. The Truckee, the mainstay, is nymphing. That's really the primary technique we use to get fish here. Most of the water type that we have, the majority of the river, you're looking at pockets, you're looking at, pocket water, riffles, fast moving pools, deep pools, things like that. And the fish here, they like to stick near the bottom. There are certain conditions though that you will see fish start to look up. And recently we've had a bit of weather come through, and it might be kind of drizzling rain, a little windy, but if we got cloud cover, that's your best chance of seeing fish on the surface consistently. When that's the case, you're looking for those slower moving runs. You're looking for those edges, that softer water.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can get fish to come up during those conditions with, we reasonably anticipate them to come up. But most of the time we're subsurface here. It's they definitely have a lot of food underneath.
Yeah, fair. Good. Okay, well, good. That's really helpful. Now, just before I let you go, I know that you have seasonally, you guys do some pretty cool stuff there with the rafting and float, rafting trips. I was going to say float, but it's not an actual typical float like you would with the drift boat. You're talking rafting trips. Tell me about those.
Yeah, so we have a 13-foot area and with a fishing frame on top of it, and it's kind of part whitewater and part fishing. So one of the techniques we really like to do out of there is we like to throw big streamers. So we're talking like 2 to 4 inch long streamer patterns on a sink tip line. Sometimes if the flow's real high, we'll use a full sink line. But we're looking at big articulated flies and imitating other fish. And that's a technique that we use to really target the bigger browns in the river. And you're looking at like throwing a 7 or an 8 weight rod. You're fishing 0x, 2x tippet. So it's pretty heavy stuff. And it's one of those things you're not looking for any fish, you're looking for the fish. And it's pretty cool in the raft because you cover a lot of water. We're moving through the river kind of just on the hunt as we do it. And that's a pretty fun way to fish. And as far as those streamers go, we find that olive tends to be our best color. Tan and black tend to be good as well. And then if you talk to most people up here, they'll tell you the same thing about the weather conditions. Sunny days can be kind of tough on the streamer fishing, just like dry flies. When it gets cloudy and we get a little overcast weather, that's really when we start to think, oh man, we're going to get them. So same sort of thing there. And with talking about streamers in general, we nymph with streamers quite a bit, and that's a technique that I would encourage people to do. Maybe not 2 to 4 inch long streamers, but smaller micro streamers, and that's something that we do quite a bit of as well.
That's interesting. That sounds like a fun one, a whole video to kind of explain on what you're doing on that. That sounds like a fun one to target. Well, good stuff, and that sounds really unique. Throwing streamers and then hitting a rapid and then throwing streamers, and what a fun way. That's a fun day. So give us the contact information for that or your regular guide trips. I know you guide there on the Truckee as well as the Mammoth area, but give us your contact. How would we get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach out several ways. The easiest way is just to give me a call. My number is 760-937-2234. Text, call, give us a ring. Otherwise, it's currentflyfishing.dave@gmail.com. And that's our website as well, currentflyfishing.com. You can kind of go on there and see all the pictures and the different things we do, the availability, especially with those float trips like we talked about. Those are very seasonal. It's only when we have enough water in the river to get the boat through. So keeping that in mind, it's not a product that we offer all the time. It's kind of right now is the time of year to get out and do that. So it's definitely varies. But walk and wade trips, we're always taking those unless we have water restrictions later in the summer. If we lose that water and that heat comes up, we do kind of start to restrict on that. But yeah, give us a call and kind of see what we're about. Be happy to get you out there.
Perfect. All right. Appreciate it. Great report. Thanks a lot, Dave. Checking in with you up there on the Truckee. And obviously, if you guys, especially if you want to get on that float trip, that's still maybe a month and a half, depends on water flows, to get out there and get in contact with them. I will post the email as well as the phone number, but Dave gave you that as well. So get in contact with him, or you can contact us. Just let us know, and we'll put you in touch with Dave at Current Fly Fishing up there on the Truckee, and then they also guide in the Mammoth area. Appreciate that report, and we'll see you next time on the Backcast.